Lorwyn Eclipsed and the pre-modern format are making huge waves in the secondary market. Get all the details here in part 1 of this giant-sized 2-part episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. This video is sponsored by Flipside Gaming. Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Right now you can order Lorwyn Eclipse products, pre-order Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles products, or find a vast number of other great items on their website. Remember, shipping is free in the US if your order is over $100 or consists only of singles. Just look in the description or comment section below for direct links to their site. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. As I said in the cold open, Lorwyn Eclipsed is out, and the new set is making cards spike all over the market. So much so that we're going to look at 45 cards over the course of 2 episodes. The 2 coldest cards and the top 43 hottest cards this week. In this part, we'll see all the cold cards and the first 23 hot cards, then we'll come back tomorrow to look at the top 20 hottest cards overall. Now, you won't see any Lorwyn Eclipse cards on this weekend's countdown since the set just came out and we need to establish a baseline for prices. Next week, however, they will begin appearing when applicable in the Market Watch episodes. As always, our lists are based on 2 pieces of criteria: the percentage change in the value of the cards as well as the change in the number of sales from week to week. Quickly before we get started though, just 2 fast things. I do want to say thank you to a couple viewers who gave super thanks tips last week. That is Swampy Boy and Todd Branch. Thank you both for your support. Thank you for those very generous super thanks tips. Really, it goes a long way. And I also want to say thank you to one of our gold patrons, and that is Cesareo Garasa. Cesareo, thank you for all your support on Patreon. I couldn't do it without viewers like yourself, truly. So thank you again, Cesareo. And now, without any further ado, let's get into it. We'll begin with the top 2 coldest cards of the week. Now, there aren't a lot of cold cards worth discussing this week, but there's 2 sliding down enough to matter. Some cards that were reprinted in Lorwyn Eclipsed are moving down at least a little bit, but they just missed our list this week. What did make the list? Well, let's look at number 2. Parallax Tide, down 22.64 to 55.11. That's a 29% decrease. This one-print wonder has been a huge part of the pre-modern format for quite some time. It has appeared in several decks there, including some really popular builds like Mono Blue Stiflenaught, Azorius Replenish, Azorius Standstill, and Tide Attack. However, this week Parallax Tide was banned in the pre-modern format, and the price immediately began to plummet. Now, it still appears in 1v1 Dual Commander and builds around Kefka Core Mage, as well as Urtai Resurrected, for example, but since Parallax Tide is no longer used in pre-modern, I expect the price to drop even more in the coming weeks. This was number 2 on the hot list last week. This week it takes the top spot on the cold list, Harbinger of Night, down $25 to $50 for a 33% decrease. This reserve list card heated up recently because of the cards that utilize -1/-1 counters in Lorwyn Eclipse products. Some have been picking up Harbinger of Night to upgrade the Lorwyn Eclipse Blight Curse Commander deck, but not as many are going after this card as some speculators anticipated. Combine that with the fact that many more copies of it hit the marketplace last week, as sellers tried to take advantage of the recent price spikes, and the result is a pretty significant loss of value. It's still more expensive than it was before the spike began though. Now it's time for part 1 of the top 43 hottest cards this week. In this part we'll be looking at the cards numbered 43 through 21, and return tomorrow for numbers 20 through 1. Let's jump in with 43. Cunning Wish from Judgment. It's up 232 to 1065, that's a 28% increase. This is in Legacy Omnitel, but it's the popularity of the pre-modern format that's pushing the price of Cunning Wish and several other cards this week. Pre-modern has been growing in popularity, but recently the professor made a video about the format on Tolarian Community College, which brought more attention to it. As I said a moment ago, Parallax Tide was banned in the format as well, so many current players are scrambling to update decks or build new ones. You see Cunning Wish in a few Storm builds there, like Iggy Pop and Mono Blue Storm, both of which may get better now in the new post-Parallax Tide meta. It also has been in the popular Tide Attack deck, but we'll have to see how that build adapts to the loss of Parallax Tide. Moving down 19 spots this week to number 42, Malira Sylvok Outcast, up 246 to 1041, that's a 31% increase. This one-print wonder is moving up because of the way it interacts with -1/-1 counters. Lots of people are playing the new Lorwyn Eclipse Blight Curse Commander deck, plus there are a lot of cards from the main set that weaponize -1/-1 counters. I'm seeing some players grabbing copies of Malera as an answer to -1/-1 counter strategies, of course, but you can also build your -1/-1 counter deck in such a way that Malera could work in your favor. In fact, I'm already seeing players putting this in commander decks around Anti-Ul Curse Wretch from the Blight Curse commander deck. Now, Malera Sylvok Outcast will prevent you from activating the Blight mechanic while you have it in play, and maybe some don't realize that, but there are plenty of cards that will make sense with it in the right build. Number 41, Calidus Assassin, up 252 to 1452, that's a 21% increase. This is from the Warhammer 40k Forces of the Imperium commander deck. It sees playing a few different commander builds, but it has been hot recently since it's been seeing additional play in the format in decks around Firelord Azula from the Avatar The Last Airbender set. Number 40, Wart Bogart Ante, up 254 to 1404, that's a 22% increase. This is a Lorwyn rare that is yet to be reprinted, so I might as well get my one per video out of the way early. You may know that during this time period in Magic, there was a recession in the game unless packs of Lorwyn as well as some other sets were cracked. Due to the lower supply, some of these cards that haven't been reprinted, especially the rares, tend to spike when there's some attention on them. So why are people paying attention to this now? Well, Wart commander decks have become better thanks to the Goblin support and Changeling creatures found in Lorwyn Eclipse. Also, I'm seeing some players putting Wart Bogart Ante in their commander builds around a new card from the Lorwyn Eclipse main set. That's Grub Storied Matriarch / Grub Notorious Ante. Number 39, Nest of Scarabs, up 302 to 949, that's a 47% increase. This is another card that has a lot more interest on it because of the -1/-1 counter support coming from Lorwyn Eclipse. Commander decks that run this, like Yawgmoth Thran Physician and the Scorpion God, have recently gotten better thanks to said support. I'm also seeing a lot of players grabbing this to upgrade the Lorwyn Eclipse Blight Curse commander deck, while others are putting in fresh builds around a couple cards from there. The front-facing commander, Anti-Ul Curse Wretch, and the Reaper King No More. Still, others want Nest of Scarabs for their commander builds around a card from the Lorwyn Eclipse main set, High Perfect Moorcant. Number 38, Fairy Blade Crafter. This is up 314 to 609, that's a 106% increase. This is from the Wilds of Eldraine Fey Dominion commander deck. It's in several fairy-centric commander builds like the ones around Alila Cunning Conqueror and Tegwell Duke of Splendor from its precon, for example. Now those decks are getting better thanks to the fairy support and changeling creatures in Lorwyn Eclipse. I'm also seeing some players putting Fairy Blade Crafter in new commander builds around a card from the Lorwyn Eclipse main set, Marlin Fey Ascendant. Moving down 24 spots this week to number 37, Agent Frank Horrigan, up 328 to 1423, that's a 30% increase. This is from the Fallout Mutant Menace commander deck. It's in a few commander builds like the ones around the Wise Mothman from its precon, for example, and it's even used as a commander at times. Some have been interested in Agent Frank Horrigan since Heroes in the Half Shell was previewed from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Turtle Power commander deck. But now there is more speculation on the card for a couple of reasons. First, it has the mutant creature type, and we saw mutant support in some of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cards that were accidentally shipped in the Lorwyn Eclipse pre-release packs last week. Secondly, we saw a lot of support for +1/+1 counter strategies in those cards as well, and Agent Frank does have a proliferate trigger. Speaking of which, there's no need to wait for the release of the next set for Agent Frank to get better. That proliferate trigger is getting the card more attention right now since it plays well with -1/-1 counter support in Lorwyn Eclipse. Some players want Agent Frank Horrigan to upgrade the Blight Curse commander deck, while others are using it for fresh builds around both Anti-Ul Curse Wretch and the Reaper King No More from there. To a lesser degree, I'm also seeing some players putting Agent Frank Horrigan in commander decks around High Perfect Moorcant from the Lorwyn Eclipse main set. 36 is Cataclysm from Exodus. It goes up 329 to 1383, that's a 31% increase. This sees playing 1v1 dual commander and builds around Felia Exuberant Shepherd and Aragorn King of Gondor, for example. It also sometimes appears in regular commander. I've seen it in decks around Newmont the Devastator there. However, the format pushing Cataclysm's price spike this week is, you guessed it, pre-modern. The Terrageddon builds have been performing well, and without Parallax Tide in the format, they could begin to take up a bigger portion of the field. You see this in some of those Terrageddon builds, including Selesnya and 4 color varieties. A week ago, this was number 12 on the hot list. Last week, it was number 2 on the cold list. This week, it rejoins the hot list to number 35. Plunge into Darkness of 381 to 1140. That's a 50% increase. This 1-print wonder is hot because of its role in the modern Cosmogoyf Death Shadow builds. The performance of those decks over the next few weeks will dictate whether Plunge into Darkness stays hot or ends up back on the cold list. Number 34, Elderfang Venom of 389 to 979. That's a 66% increase. This is from the Kaldheim Elven Empire Commander deck. It consistently sees play in builds around Lathril, Blade of the Elves from its pre-con, and those decks are getting better thanks to the elf support and changeling creatures found in Lorwyn Eclipsed. I'm also seeing players putting Elderfang Venom in their new commander builds around High Perfect Morcant from the Lorwyn Eclipsed main set, and that has been another reason for the price increase. Moving down 14 spots this week to number 33, Quillspike gets up 411 to 1042, that's a 65% increase. This is an Eventide uncommon that is yet to be reprinted, but since I already used my one per video, I'll spare you the whole spiel. Many thought this could see a reprint in the Lorwyn Eclipse Blight Curse Commander deck, but that didn't happen, and now it's a desired upgrade for that build. This goes infinite with Devoted Druid, which was reprinted there. I'm also seeing some players putting Quillspike in fresh commander deck lists around Anti-Ul Curse Wretch from Blight Curse. 32, Spiteful Banditry up 421 to 920, that's an 84% increase. This has been seeing a little commander play in builds around cards like Sauron the Dark Lord and Jaws Relentless Predator, for example, but now it's moving up because it's another good upgrade to the Lorwyn Eclipse Blight Curse commander deck. I'm also seeing players putting it in new builds around a couple cards from there. You know them, you love them. Anti-Ul Curse Wretch and the Reaper King no more. Number 31 is Abeyance, up 423 to 2225, that's a 24% increase. This reserve list card is moving up because of the play it sees in the pre-modern format. This is found in a couple of decks that may get more play now that Parallax Tide is banned, and they are Iggy Pop and Pandemonium Burst. Abeyance was also used in Azorius Replenish and Bant Standstill. We'll have to see how those decks adapt without Parallax Tide, but I think they will still be strong enough with some tweaks. Alright, quickly before we get to number 30, just a fast reminder, this video is sponsored by Flipside Gaming. Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Right now, you can purchase Lorwyn Eclipse there. You can pre-order Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles products as well, or find any number of other great items on their website, magic related or otherwise. Remember, if your order is over $100 or consistently singles, shipping will be free in the US, and if you're looking for a direct link to their site, just check out the description or comment section below. I do have links posted in both of those places. And now, without any further ado, let's move on to number 30, Scion of Una. The Wilds of Eldraine commander copy from the Fey Dominion deck is up 239 to 1022, that's a 31% increase. The Modern Masters copy is up 381 to 1243, that's a 44% increase. And the original Lorwyn copy is up 429 to 1277, that's a 51% increase. This is found in several fairy-centric commander builds, like the ones around Alila Cunning Conqueror from its pre-con and Alila Artful Provocateur, for example. As I said earlier, the fairy support and changeling creatures in Lorwyn Eclipsed are making decks like the ones I just mentioned that much better. Plus, Scion of Una is appearing in new commander builds around Marlin Fey Ascendant from the Lorwyn Eclipse domain set. Moving down 4 spots this week to number 29, Cavalier of Flame from Core Set 2020. This is up 447 to 1043, that's a 75% increase. You would see this in commander builds around Horde of Notions or Omnith Locus of All, for example, but Cavalier of Flame is hot now because of, you guessed it, Lorwyn Eclipsed. Like several other creature types, elementals are also getting a big push from many cards in the new products. Some players are even getting Cavalier of Flame to upgrade the Lorwyn Eclipse Dance of the Elements commander deck, while others want to put it in fresh builds around the front-facing commander from there, Ashling, the Limitless. Number 28 is Volrath Shapeshifter, up 451 to $10, that's an 82% increase. This is another reserve list card moving up because of the play it sees in the pre-modern format. It's a 2 of in the 5-color Hermit Druid build, which is a deck that could see more play in a post-Parallax Tide pre-modern format. Number 27, Archmage of Echoes, up 459 to 1454, that's a 46% increase. This is from the Wilds of Eldraine Fey Dominion deck. By now, you know the story. This is in fairy-centric commander builds like the ones around Alila Cunning and Conquer from its pre-con, and Alila Artful Provocateur, for example. Again, the fairy support and changeling creatures in Lorwyn Eclipsed are just making fairy-centric commander decks better, resulting in this price increase. Archmage of Echoes is also another card appearing in commander decks around Marlin Fey Ascendant from the Lorwyn Eclipsed main set. Number 26, Preston the Vanisher at 545 to 2797. That's a 24% increase. This has been getting a little commander play. Sometimes it's in builds around Elishnorn and Mother of Machines, for example. It's moving up because it's a little dry online this week. I have seen a few people putting it in commander builds around a new card from the Lorwyn Eclipsed main set. That's Seerdew Carrier of Dawn / Isilou Carrier of Twilight. Also, the changeling creatures in Lorwyn Eclipsed are having an impact on Preston the Vanisher's price as well. Coming in at number 25, Dystopia of 550 to 2699. That's a 26% increase. This reserveless card does see a tad bit of commander play. I've seen it in builds around Lord of Tressorhorn, for example, but in a shocking turn of events, it's the pre-modern format that's pushing this price. Dystopia has been a key sideboard card for mono black decks in a meta that runs a lot of green and white enchantments. For example, this is found in the sideboards of mono black discard decks there. Number 24 is Meditate at 555 to 1824. That's a 44% increase. Well, it's a reserveless card. 3 guesses why it's spiking. Yup, it's found in the mono blue Storm pre-modern decks, and many think those builds will become a much bigger part of the meta now that it is shifting due to the Parallax Tide banning. Number 23 has been staring at you for a while. Ob Nixilis, Captive Kingpin. This is at 584 to 1445. That's a 68% increase. This still sees play as a commander, and it can appear in the 99 of a few builds like Velgavoth Harrower of Souls, for example. Now though, there is some new interest in the card, hence the price increase. Many players are getting it to upgrade the Lorwyn Eclipsed Blight Curse commander deck, while others are putting it in new builds around Anteal Curse Wretch from there. There was also a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles card that was previewed after last week's accidental reveal that got some speculation on Ob Nixilis Captive Kingpin, and that card is Southwind Avatar. 22, Undiscovered Paradise, up 621 to 3121. That's a 25% increase. Do you even need me here anymore to explain these? This is another reserveless card spiking because of the play it sees in the pre-modern format. It is a key mana-based card there for multicolored decks like 5-color Hermit Druid, 5-color Reanimator, Boros Goblins, Growatog, 4-color Alurin, and sometimes 4-color Terragadon. And coming in at number 21, Cavalier of Night. The core set 2020 copy is up $608 to $12. That's a 103% increase. The one from the list is up $696 to $1245. That's a 127% increase. This has been seeing commander play in several decks, like builds around Sidar Jabari of Zhalfir and Horde of Notions, for example. Now this is moving up because of the elemental support and changeling creatures busting out of Lorwyn Eclipsed products. Many players are grabbing Cavalier of Night to upgrade the Dance of the Elements commander deck, while others are getting it for fresh builds around Ashling the Limitless from there. Alright, that's going to do it for part 1 of this 2-part episode of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Come back tomorrow. You're not going to want to miss it. We're going to look at the top 20 hottest cards of the week. These are the biggest spikes that we saw all week. Until next time, though, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.